The Miami Dolphins, always a team with grand aspirations and equally grand frustrations, entered the 2024 season with a roster that had been meticulously adjusted, sculpted, and, in some cases, dismantled. The offseason was filled with calculated risks, bold additions, and painful departures. But now, after a full season of evidence, we are left with one question: did any of it actually work? Jordan Brooks arrived, and oh, did he arrive! The Dolphins' linebacker core had been, let's say, uninspiring in recent years. Jerome Baker, a longtime fixture, was out, and the promise of David Long Jr. alongside Brooks felt like a fresh start. The results? Brooks delivered the best season by a Miami off-ball linebacker since Kiko Alonso was out there hunting quarterbacks in 2016. Think about that. Nearly a decade of mediocrity before someone finally raised the standard. Then, Tyrel Dodson replaced Long, and things really started to take shape. A clear upgrade, but not without its bumps. Jonnu Smith's arrival was met with cautious optimism. The Dolphins hadn't seen tight end production in the passing game in, well, forever. 0 touchdowns from the position in 2023 was embarrassing, a statistic that felt like an indictment of the system itself. But then came October, and suddenly, Smith wasn't just a piece of the puzzle, he was the puzzle. The most productive tight end season in Dolphins history? Pro Bowl? Who saw that coming? Jalen Wright was drafted, but let's not kid ourselves, this was supposed to be the Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane show. And for a brief moment, it was. Achane exploded onto the scene as the weapon in this offense, electric in every sense of the word. But Mostert? He went from being the heart of the backfield to a shell of himself. Injuries, fumbles, whatever you want to call it, his 2024 season was a massive step back. Wright had flashes, especially in New England, but he was never going to be the guy. Losing Andrew Van Ginkel hurt badly. But the Dolphins knew that if they were going to contend, they had to get younger and faster on the edge. Chop Robinson didn't explode out of the gate, but once he got going, it was clear, this kid is for real. All rookie honors in year one? That's a big deal. Shaquille Barrett's situation was messy, but then, in a twist no one saw coming, Emmanuel Ogbah, who had been let go, returned and delivered. It was an emotional roller coaster of a season, but Miami came out of it with a promising young pass rusher and some unlikely contributors. Odell Beckham Jr. was supposed to be the missing piece. The veteran presence behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. The guy who could make defenses pay if they sold out to stop the top two. Instead, a disaster. Miami got nothing from him before he basically begged to be cut, and the rest of the league showed exactly how they felt about him. No one picked him up. Malik Washington was a bright spot, but let's be real, the Dolphins needed more. Instead, they got one of the biggest disappointments of the season. No additions. No subtractions. No improvement. Miami rolled into 2024 with Tua Tagovailoa, Mike White, and Skylar Thompson. The result? Predictable. The moment Thompson had to step in, the Dolphins were done with him, turning instead to Tyler Huntley in a last-minute desperation move. This was negligence. They didn't upgrade when they had the chance, and when disaster struck, they scrambled. They had all the time in the world to fix this, and they didn't. The Xavier Howard era ended, and Kendall Fuller was brought in as his replacement. And you know what? It worked, mostly. Fuller was solid, a veteran presence who fit the scheme well. But then the injuries came. 2 concussions. A season-ending knee issue. Suddenly, that depth the Dolphins were banking on? Not looking so deep anymore. Siren Neal did his thing on special teams, but at the end of the day, this unit was one injury away from falling apart. And that injury came. Connor Williams gone. Robert Hunt gone. And what was the plan? Aaron Brewer and Jack Driscoll? Look, Brewer was fine. He earned solid grades from Pro Football Focus. But let's not pretend Miami didn't take a massive step back here. Williams was more physical, and his absence was felt. And Hunt? That one hurt even more because Isaiah Wynn was out for most of the season, and neither Robert Jones nor Liam Eichenberg could hold down the guard spot. This wasn't just a downgrade, it was a liability. Losing Christian Wilkins was a gut punch. The Dolphins tried to make up for it with volume: Benito Jones, Tier Tart, Jonathan Harris, Neville Gallimore. But none of them mattered as much as one late signing, Calais Campbell. When Campbell was on the field, the Dolphins barely felt Wilkins' absence. That's how dominant he was. Zach Sealer and Campbell were a formidable duo, and it was enough to stabilize a position group that could have been a disaster. Without Campbell, though, this would have been a train wreck.